Chapter 28, Wednesday, 8:15 p.m. The Deal. "Who are you, Paul?" a soft voice said from the doorway. "Well, what I am not is a fucking pervert," I said, without opening my eyes. I heard the door shut softly, and the voice came from the foot of my bed. "No, you're right. They don't protect people like that." Regardless of how this ended, I knew I had to give Larry and Riley a heads up, especially big-mouthed Larry. It didn't hurt for Adeline to keep that illusion of our justice system intact. "No, guys like that belong behind bars or worse," I said, allowing the honest disgust to creep into my voice. Not sure my eyes could say what my voice was selling. I kept them closed. I remembered all too well the night when sitting at my computer, exploring WITSEC from the inside, I had discovered how far prosecutors would go to get their trophy. The Kaufmans didn't deserve life even behind bars, but their benefactors sure as hell did. "Are you a bad guy, Paul?" I opened my eyes. "To be honest, Adeline, I have no fucking idea." She edged back to her chair and sat on the edge with her feet tucked under in case she needed to bolt again. "Why?" she asked. "I became a witness after Gabriella was murdered and I was shot, but I can't say any more than that. And yes, some people want my head. That's all I can say. It's why I walked away the other day. You and Mandy don't need a guy with my baggage in your lives." The truth made me angry, and I let it show. Adeline didn't deserve it, but I owed it to her. "I have more I need to tell you before Larry comes back. Can you let me do that?" I liked that she didn't like it one damn bit. Her lips pressed tightly together. She nodded, and I continued. "I know you're too smart to start a fight you can't finish. You'll realize you are seriously outgunned when all of this sinks in. Cottonwood and the HOA have tons of money and connections at levels much higher than historical committees. Your neighbors include packs of lawyers, judges, state, and even federal legislators. And trust me, they will be after blood with their goddamn golf course at stake. Mind if I continue?" Though she stared daggers at me, she said nothing, so I took it as a yes. "That doesn't mean you won't have offers to help. I still have sources, and they assure me the land value is in the 8-figure range, maybe even more." I paused to let that sink in. She sheathed her daggers, but kept up her guard. "And what do you suggest?" she asked. I wanted to suggest I'd let her know how to find me once I got wherever the hell I was headed. A vision of Mandy standing over a snake flew in out of nowhere and made me choke it off. "I'm sorry, Paul, that was unnecessary. No, it was completely uncalled for. You saved Mandy's life, and now you've given me hope. I never took mansplaining very well, even as a nurse. I had no idea what the hell she was talking about, but I got the gist. It was my fault she acted like an ass." I gave her a curt nod and continued, now eager to get it over with. "Whatever. Here's the deal. You try it alone, and they'll double down. They know you don't have the money to start clawing your land back from them. Even if you get an attorney on contingency, and I've been assured that in this case you can get the best, they'll come at you other ways." She nodded and looked like she was about to cry. I was doing a great job, building up her hopes and then crushing her. "So what you need is someone with money, someone they can't scare or wear out," I said hurriedly. She raised her eyebrows, trying desperately not to show her skepticism. "And where would I find such a person? Are you that person?" she asked in an even voice. My bitter laugh came out petty. "Adeline, if I were that person with that kind of money, I wouldn't be in WITSEC. I'd be on an island somewhere with a new face. I sure as hell wouldn't be a groundskeeper." A part of it was true. At the moment, I was in WITSEC, although I could soon be on an island with a new face if I wanted. I furrowed my brows, looked at the door, and then returned to her. Realizing that furrowed brows were probably mansplaining, I unfurled them. "You have to promise to keep all of this to yourself. There are strict rules in the WITSEC program, and most of what I said could cause me some serious problems, especially the next part. You have to give me your word," I growled. "I would never," she said, her voice rising before biting off whatever followed. "Sorry, I tend to, it doesn't matter. Yes, I promise," she whispered. I went full-on mansplaining, furrowed my brows, compressed my lips, and nodded sharply. It was the only way I could keep from smiling. I'd only said it to set the stage. I preferred Larry and Riley not find out until I was ready. But my time with Witsec was over again. Like Larry always said, let them think you're the bad guy. Leverage your face. All right, I know people, if you know what I mean, I said. Oh my God, is that your real accent? You're like really from New Jersey or wherever? Maybe I'd gone a little overboard. I coughed, smiled weakly, and said, It comes back when I'm stressed. Look, I called a guy who has money. Not anyone connected or anything, just a businessman. Well, more or less anyway. I know I had no right to tell him about your problem, but I wanted you to have an option. Actually, more than just an option. Call it a model you can use with other investors. She gave this the thought it deserved before giving me the rope to hang myself. Then said, Go on. Now, don't get mad. I know it's mansplaining, but I showed him what I had. Why are you smiling? Never mind. Go on. Women. Anyway, he's the one who said your property could be worth a fortune. How much depends on how you go about it. So, let me just cut to the chase. Please, she said. He said he would offer you $5 million to partner with him. After that, he covers all expenses. You agree to a target number, probably around $15 million. By target, he means you cannot bail until he gets that much for the property. If you get more, great. He takes out his $5 million investment, his expenses, mostly legal fees, and splits whatever is left 60-40. He gets 60. He thinks you'll end up with about $7 million total. Adeline leaned forward and said incredulously, Are you telling me that he will give me $5 million up front? Yep. It's not what he wants to do, but I insisted he give you an option where you have a say in what happens, at least to a point. This guy will not hand over $5 million in a partnership unless he knows he can drive home a deal to more than double his investment. Okay, what does he want to do? Adeline asked, trying and failing to sound businesslike. He wants to give you $10 million, agree that he has complete control of the deal, and when all is said and done, he takes $10 million, his expenses, and splits the rest 80-20. 80 for him. Adeline fell back in her chair and said, $10 million. $10 million fucking dollars. She leaned forward. I don't get it. Are you saying he will pay me $5 million more to be, what, a silent partner? Don't get me wrong, I can live with it. Does the guy have a thing about women? He has a real thing about women, as in he likes them a lot, and often as business partners. And it's not a silent partner, Adeline. Silent implies secretive. You would be a public and completely irrelevant partner. It may take years, but he thinks the potential is tens of millions. At the very least, once he gets control from Cottonwood and their HOA, the fight will be dirty. Again, he wants you to be completely irrelevant. And he thinks I'll fold? That I'll be what, a liability? I'm just asking. I shook my head and said, Not you, Adeline. I feel if he met you and things were different, he'd think differently, but it is what it is. Her face went slack, and she said, Mandy. When I nodded, she shook her head and said, They wouldn't come after my daughter. Oh my God, I know they aren't great people, but my Mandy? Paul? Adeline, they were going to cut down the trees protecting her from golf balls. Your neighbor is missing. Fuck yes, they would do more than just use Mandy. This guy can't protect you from that. No one can. So he wants you out of the game. And I can trust him? Do you trust him? I shook my head. No, you can't trust him. That's what the $10 million is for. All you can do is wait until it's done. Maybe he honors the deal, maybe not. Your lawyer needs to put some teeth into the agreement, making it not worth the trouble of screwing you. It didn't come out like I meant it to, but apparently we were past semantics. Adeline closed her eyes and leaned back in her chair. When she opened them, without sitting up, she said, I don't suppose he said what he would give just to have me sell the whole damn thing to him, did he? $15 million. It might be worth well over $100 million when it's all over. But for $15 million, Mandy and I are more than irrelevant. We're out of the picture, she murmured. I hadn't spent more than a few hours with her and Mandy, and I knew they would never be irrelevant to me. I knew reality was sinking in when Adeline asked, Paul, what do you think happened to Driscoll? I have no idea, I lied. Her eyes left mine to roam as she tried to get her head around all of it. Paul, please don't take this wrong. I never in a million years would have believed I would go from being broke and moving back in with my parents to having millions. But as wonderful as that is, I can't help but be angry that those bastards will never be punished. The worst thing that will happen to them is losing what they thought they had stolen. It's like punishing a bank robber by taking back the money. I nodded and said, "You're right. In fact, by the time it's all over, they'll spin this so they are the victims. That's how they'll see it. And they'll make the guy clawing back the land look like an evil monster. Trust me, to win this thing, that's exactly the kind of guy it will take. He'll have to play the game the way they do, only much nastier." "And how do I get in touch with this man?" she asked as she stood up. "His attorney can call you right away if you want. Depending on what you decide, you may be dealing with the company. Guys like this don't come out of the shadows unless they have to." She looked down, studying me, clearly trying to decide something. Then, without warning, she leaned over and kissed me deep and hard. I fantasized for a long, long time about where it might have gone if the bed had not been in a hospital room. Then she patted my scars and said, "For your information, buddy, I am always worth the trouble of screwing."